turn now to city politics. Mayor Brandon Johnson's transition committee released a 200-page plan this week for fixing the city.
And joining us now, WGN political analyst Paul Lisnek. Paul, thanks for being here.
Happy Friday night, guys.
Happy Friday night.
You know, it's been 2 months since this blueprint, before the blueprint finally came out. 400 people helped work on it. It's a big thing to sort of pick apart here, but what are some of the highlights and what do you see as the primary challenges for Mayor Johnson to make it happen?
Yeah, so it was 223 pages and lots of different, I think 11 different subcommittees working on this. Some actually have criticized them saying, what took you so long to come out? I'm not sure that's fair. But this program really has lots of subsections to it and goes in a variety of areas from human care. I will say it addresses everything he pretty much talked about on the stump.
As a candidate.
As a candidate. However, we're seeing some differences. For example, he wanted to reopen mental health centers, the 14 that have been shuttered around the city. So that's in the plan. But he says it should be done in a phased way, and he doesn't give us the timeline for that. Also, we always knew this was going to be a very expensive plan, like $1 billion, and we don't see in this plan how exactly the head tax, all these things we had heard about, we don't see that in this plan. What we see is a suggestion that we need a revised tax system and a more fair tax system, a sort of talking points for pretty much any Democrat that would be running. But yeah, so I think that's a little bit surprising. We still don't know how this gets paid for. But it's a pretty bold plan, but it's consistent with what he said on the stump.
All right, let's go national.
Yep.
Donald Trump, talk about Walt.
Is he in the news again?
Again, Walt Nauta, his alleged co-conspirator in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. He pleads not guilty.
Right. No surprise.
Right, no surprise. But tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the judge say that he and Trump shouldn't be hanging out together or talking? They were together at some Philly cheesesteak place, right?
Yeah. Well, what the judge, this is a tough one because Walt Nauta does work for former President Trump. So what the judge did order, Micah, you're right about this, you cannot talk about this case or anything related. Now, I don't know who's monitoring that. I don't know whether the judge will from time to time step in and ask whether or not this has been discussed, but it's impossible for them not to be together. I mean, Nauta's the one that literally gets Trump Diet Cokes and all these kind of things.
As we've heard.
Exactly. So they're going to talk, but the order is they cannot talk about this case. The interesting thing on the timing was this was Nauta's third scheduled appearance. He finally gets a local lawyer who's actually a state rep.
And Trump's people, they are paying for this?
Trump's PAC is paying for this, but you know, you're right to tap into that because, you know, listen, there was another one of the lawyers involved was also getting represented by Trump PAC and was very reticent on what she said and all that. She got rid of the Trump PAC, hired her own lawyers, and then all of a sudden said, I need to talk, I need to worry about my own career. Walt Nauta does not seem to be doing that right now. We know there's probably some pressure on him to turn state's evidence for a little bit, but I think as long as the PAC is paying him and he's working for Donald Trump, he's just going to hang through and see what happens. And looking at the evidence, it doesn't look good for him down the line.
With all of the representation questions for him, what does that do to the timeline? I mean, do you still think that this could happen before the end of the year?
Right now we know that the prosecutor has asked that the trial happen in December, right? It was supposed to be August 14th. We knew that would never happen. And the prosecutor said, Jack Smith said, let's put it in December. I don't see how that happens anymore either. Because look, we haven't even gotten underway, Ray, with the motions and the exclusions and all these things, the lawyer whose testimony you allowed in for the grand jury, but it shouldn't be allowed in now. Plus you have a judge who was a pro-Trump judge. Now we'll see how we know how she ruled previously, which to his benefit. We'll see what she does this time around. We don't know. But it's really hard to see how this thing happens before the end of the year. And the more it gets pushed into the next year, you start having the conflicts of Trump saying, hey, look, I've got campaigning to do. We've got debates to do. Yeah. All this kind of stuff is in line.
It's getting dirty between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. He put something on Twitter saying from back in 2016, the campaign with Trump, saying that he loves LGBTQ people and he wants to give them all the rights that they can. And he put that on Twitter.
So, you know, what that statement that Trump, what he's using of Trump's was after the Pulse nightclub massacre. Yeah. And Trump came out and basically said, because you never know what Trump's going to say.
There was just an anniversary of that.
There was. But at that time, Trump did say, you know, essentially we're going to support the LGBTQ community and stuff, which is, I think, what a president should say when you're having those kind of moments. Everybody is an American. And DeSantis, for some reason, his advisors have said, you know, he wants to be to the right of Trump, which is not an easy thing to do because who knows what to the right of Trump means since Trump can kind of shift around. But the hatred that is behind some of these efforts of DeSantis, I think is a miscalculation. You know, when you look at polls today, 70–80% of the people support and accept the same-sex marriage and lifestyle and and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know where he's going with this, but the attack just doesn't seem warranted, and I think it's going to cost him. Having said that, in fairness to DeSantis, he raised $15 million in the last quarter, so he's doing fairly well on that. So his answer would be, hey, look, I'm raising money. But I think ultimately in the end it costs him.
Finally, let's do some Illinois politics.
Yeah.
Darren Bailey lost the governor's race, now setting his sights on Mike Boss' congressional seat in the 12th district. Can he beat a five-term incumbent?
Yeah, well, I mean, he can. We'll see if he does. You know, you may remember we were all together on election night, and one of the things we talked about when Bailey lost in that election was this was a trial run, right? I'm not sure he ever really thought he'd win for governor against Pritzker, but I looked ahead. I think a lot of us did and said he wants to be a congressman. It's exactly what he's doing. Now, here's the thing. Bailey came and endorsed, Trump came and endorsed Bailey, but Trump also endorsed Bost. So the question is, who will Trump get behind? And in that particular district, it's going to be a Republican representative without question. So it's which one of them will get the Trump endorsement. And these days, and with the mood at this time in the country, whichever one wins over Trump probably is on their way to Washington.
What's coming up on your show Sunday?
Hey, we're going to take a look at the Brandon Johnson report, mayor's report, and joining me to talk about that is going to be one of the members of the committee, Caitlin Johnson, no relation. She handled the human rights, equity, inclusion piece of this. And then Alderman Raymond Lopez is going to come in and talk about, you know, he tweets and talks a lot about Chicago violence, but I'm going to hit him with, okay, I understand it's a problem. What do we do about it, Alderman? We'll see what he says about that.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. Have a weekend.
You
Good
too.
weekend.